Yo, 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 Round the Comiverse. Yo, 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 Round the Comiverse, episode 47. Let's go. We got Danny the Bull, Patient Hodler, Dr. Stuff, and the real Randy Chavez. Woo!
Hey,
What up,
how's it
fam?
going, guys? Hi, Danny.
What's up, guys?
What is happening? I think StreamYard is a bit slow today. It said 0 viewers, now it's just jumped up. We're over 30 straight away. So I don't know if they missed the start. My wife actually watches this show every day live when we do it, and she said sometimes it cuts off like the first 30 seconds, so she fully misses the intro. So that probably happens to most people. They just see us like mid conversation.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like we were on for 42 seconds. Weird.
Yeah.
Okay, well, everyone say hello to Danny.
We were stuck in advertisement or so.
We got some of that merch going, guys, around the Comiverse. Woo! It's exciting. It's exciting. So we got a lot of FUD this week. Who wants to do some FUD busting? Who feels like that?
What FUD are we busting?
I don't know. The OMI we got and one says a Comiverse is on his deathbed. No, it is not. We're episode 47.
So when he says the Comiverse, does he mean us because we're around the Comiverse?
I think he means OMI.
Does he mean like the Veve-verse?
No, I think he thinks Vivi's doing well, but Omi's not doing well. I think that's
okay. So Akomi is on its deathbed.
But then he says it's going to go into a 20x because that's bad, right? That's only outperforming Bitcoin by like 4 times.
Typical bear market activity, 20x. I don't go for these coins.
Yeah, we don't go for 20xers.
Where's and one from?
I don't know.
Does he know what deathbed means?
I don't think so. He's probably like 18 years old.
No, I think he's saying around the Veve-verse because the Comiverse is on his deathbed, right? Like, yeah. I think he knows exactly what he's saying there, and that's the sentiment. We can address that FUD, right? People are really concerned that they're like, the team never speaks about OMI. They'll always talk about Veve. Even the Akomi channel rarely tweets anything out except for to retweet stuff that Veve does. And they're concerned, but they seem to not pay attention to the fact that the team has hired a blockchain team to focus on the OMI token and the utility surrounding that. But I also don't think that they understand the regulatory environment that Veve and the Akomi team are under right now, and the concerns that they have about potentially being perceived as promoting this token or something that could put it in the realm of being a security. And so I think that they're being extremely cautious about that while still working with attorneys and this team to develop the utility before they can really start talking about it. But there's just this concern about it, but people just seem to ignore the other things that are happening, right? Like, I get it that they might want to have things happen faster or sooner. I totally understand that. But they did hire this blockchain team. We do have staking, a minimal staking thing. I'm not saying that these are grand, but they are steps that the team is showing hey, this is on our mind and we are building towards something.
Awesome. Crypto Rain will be in later. We just had a comment from I Love Golf that we got no rain, but he's coming.
Hey,
can I counter that a little bit?
Yeah.
I want to go against that statement of Dr. Stuff just a little bit, because that whole thing of the let's go. The whole thing of the that being so worried about the regulations and so on. So I don't know, if I look at the altcoin markets, like top 200, top 100, whatever, everything's pumping, everyone is talking, everyone is tweeting. It's like, okay, then Akomi is the only project that is worried about regulatory issues, because apparently from Chainlink down to, I don't know, Unibots, Roll Bitcoin, and I don't know what, no one is really worried about that. So I don't know if it's just, sometimes seems like an argument to just excuse everything. Like, okay, you're not on exchanges. Yeah, that's because of regulatory issues. They didn't integrate the coin yet into mechanics in the Veve app. That's because of regulatory issues, right? So that is a little bit of a weak argument, in my opinion.
So I'm going to speak from authority in regulatory speak here. There's reason for that, and when you're comparing a lot of these other companies, they're not tied to massive IP, right? So they kind of don't care. And a lot of these tokens, their whole goal, not all of them, but a lot of these tokens, their whole goal is to pump the token, and they're not going to be around in 3 years.
Polygon is tied to the same IP.
Which one?
What do you mean by that? What do you mean they're tied to the same IP?
Polygon is tied to Disney as well.
No, Disney has done an incubator with Polygon. That is not the same thing. Polygon doesn't have their approved licensed IP that Polygon is issuing on that Polygon is developing that and issuing that, and it's tied to the Polygon token. So it's not a comparison.
I think
it's more than an indicator, than an incubator. It's like partnerships with the biggest brands, like sports brands and everything. It's not only
an accelerator program.
But there's a difference between hey, we're going to have these things on our blockchain, and hey, these things, there's going to be an integration with the Polygon token, right? And the utility of the Polygon token and this IP tied to that. I mean, so I get it. I don't think that they can excuse everything and say, like, oh, everything is a regulatory issue there. But when Veve is dealing with Disney, and they are dealing with Marvel and with Star Wars, and those attorneys, they have to deal with those guys' attorneys too, and saying, hey, how is this going to impact these things by bringing the token into like a concern of, is this a security? Does that also put eyes on the NFTs as, are these securities, right? Because some of that still hasn't been vetted and everything. So I think that they're really just tiptoeing around that issue until they get more clarity. But like I have a lot of the OMI token. I want them to talk about the token. So it's not like I'm sitting there defending them, but I am trying to point out like reality here. And half of these projects, I mean, Danny DeBull did a video where he talked about all of these like top 10 coins or top 20 coins from the last bull run. How many of them are actually even here anymore, right? They die out. And so their whole purpose, a lot of these things, is to just like pump the token as much as possible, extract as much value, and then knowing that they're probably not going to be around in 3 to 5 years, where Veve is like, we're going to be around in 50 years. It's a completely different mindset.
I think it has less to do with the IP and more to do with Veve's double-sided business model, right? Where they have half of their business is like real-world revenue through Veve, where they're generating, fiat and money and credit card purchases. And then the other side is the crypto side of the project. And in my opinion, I feel like they don't want the crypto side to hinder the real-world revenue generating side. So it's kind of like a blessing and a curse, all these things that we love about the project, right? Even, whether it's the IPs or the fact that they're generating real world revenue when a lot of these projects don't generate anything, that's also kind of holding them back in the full implementation of the token. Because when you look at other tokens, like there is no mistake that, Sand is the native currency of Sandbox, or Mana is the native currency of Decentraland. Whereas, when I asked David last week, what will the integration of OMI look like in Veveverse? It was kind of like, well, we have to wait and see. So it's interesting to watch it play out.
Yeah, we've got some really interesting discussion in the comments as well. Oh, we have a special guest. Yo, hey. Crypto Rain, welcome.
Hey, there he is.
What's going on, everyone?
We got the full panel now. The full panel.
People were complaining, Rain, that you weren't here. They were like, I hope they sit around. They're like, Rain's not here, thumbs down. Maybe bounce, because we haven't seen golf posts since.
I like this one. Message to all the bears: we are not selling.
There we go. No, what's so funny is to see people selling at these lows, right? And they just don't understand the cycles. They're just new to this. And they're just acting emotionally rather than logically. 95% of people don't do very well in crypto for that exact reason. And it's really not all that hard. It's difficult. It's fairly simple, but it's not complicated. It's literally buy low when everyone else is running away, and then wait till everyone is running towards it and take profits. And some people just have the hardest time doing that.
100%.
I saw some comments on OMI, right? And they're like, oh, it's just underperforming everything. I'm going to focus all my time on everything else. Maybe, But does that mean that they're buying things that went 5x over the past 2 months and passing up something that's on the biggest sale ever? Because if so, I can't say I understand that.
100%.
Yeah.
I just want to quickly address one comment here by OG Vault. This guy was fudding me in Twitter saying how, ooh, look, I've got a screenshot. You only have 50 viewers, because he was looking at like one YouTube channel that had 50 views. Like, we
Yeah.
actually are sharing this show between 4 or 5 different YouTube channels, as well as 2 or 3 different Twitters. Okay, we actually hit 265 live viewers last time with David on, and right now we're over 100. So I know OG Vault that you probably get like 20 viewers max, so you don't believe that's possible to get 200, but we get more than 200, guy.
I mean, OG Vault, look, like OG Vault gets a lot of viewers on his live stream, like he does when he's doing the drops and things. But at the same time, like, to sit there and attack someone and like you're right, Jordan. Like, you lose credibility when you sit there and you make fun of something like that. But then, like, you're obviously blatantly wrong, right? Like, you did have all of those, but we are streaming to multiple channels here, so viewers are watching from different channels to support those channels. So, but I don't like to attack people personally. I think it's good to point out, like, and attack the argument that someone's making and just keep it as civil as possible, you know?
Yeah. I just wanted to do that because he called me out on Twitter, and I wrote back, and you guys said I should block him, so I blocked him. It's done. It's done.
There's a lot of drama and fighting here, man. I just want to
I
get
know. Well, people think they're so nuanced with their new things. And, you know, those that have been around market cycles, none of this is new. And most people haven't been around crypto for 6 years, but you would have seen all the same stuff in the last bear market. And the same feelings, and people just getting frustrated. People, when everything's down, they get really catty and, oh my gosh, and they FUD whatever is way down. And then later it does really, really well. And somehow those people never like own up to it and be like, oh my gosh, you know, I was wrong. They actually further invest in the ego behind their decision and just like disappear or whatever. It's weird. Like, you know, if I was that wrong, and I'm not always right, I'm just often right. But if I was that wrong, I just own up to it and be like, oh crap. Yeah, called that one wrong. Cool. Yeah, learn something on that.
We have a really good question here. Who wants to take this one? Just a quick question. What's better investment, OMI or Veve NFTs?
I'd say it depends on the timeline you're looking at and which NFTs there are. There's a big difference between the Mermicornos and Miles Morales. So I would, you know, if we get a little more specific, I'll take the question. But until then, I'll leave someone else.
True. Personally, I think you should do both, right? I think with Veve, I'm only buying what I really like now. Unfortunately, I like a lot of it, so I've got quite a few Veve NFTs, but I'm still a small fish compared to most of you guys. I'm actually still a master now because of my OMI holdings in the Veve app. I'm actually sitting at master. I'm like on the edge of it. So some days I'm Diamond 1, some days I'm master. But yeah, like, I think you should buy what you like in Veve and not expect it to go up in value. That's where most people have the problem. And then I personally...
Sorry, is that why Jimbo Lee calls us all masters?
It must be. I think we're all master collectors here, right? Hey, Patient Hodler, are you master collector as well?
It just clicked.
PH?
I don't think so.
Oh,
yeah, actually. No, I'm Diamond 1. I'm Diamond 1.
You're on the edge. You're on the edge. What's your points per day? Must be just under 800?
620 or something.
Oh, okay.
But I've accumulated 400,000 MCP points over the time, so
that's pretty good.
Yeah,
a good amount.
Yeah, you're not
slowly creeping up to level 43.
I do have a different thought on what's better right now. I think OMI is the underpriced investment, right? So a lot of the Veve NFTs are down too, which is cool, but it's harder to tell which Veve NFTs will do very well. Like Mermicornos, I can't say I understand a future where they outperform things. Miles Morales, that one makes sense to me. But then it's pretty expensive to begin with. I mean, you could buy, what is Miles Morales going for these days? Like the secret rare one?
He had 3 sell this week. 6,800, 8K, and some, I think somewhere in between.
So
it depends on the
10 million OMI. What's going to perform better, 10 million OMI or the Miles Morales secret rare? And the hard thing about the Miles Morales secret rare is you can't sell half of it. You can't take profits and still kind of hold some back. And so now if you went for like Miles Morales first release commons, then you can buy a bunch of them. Then you can take profits and still continue to hold. But I'm very specific on what collectibles that I'm buying. But mostly lately, I've been buying OMI. It's way cheap. I like cheap. I like to go back by the Veve collectibles nobody's talking about, like Darth Vader's, Boba Fett's, and other things that everyone's kind of forgot about. Hulk's, because that moment is really cool, right? When he does the Hulk smash. And OMI.
Awesome. I'd have to agree, Rain. I personally think that OMI is going to outperform majority of the NFTs. There might be some outliers. Like I know some undervalued comics could do like 100x, but I think OMI is going to do a pretty good amount.
Yeah, when OMI was 1.4 cents, I was like, man, there's this Todd McFarlane Batman on the thing, and we have no patterns to look at, but I can't imagine how this doesn't do well. And that went up 200x from that price. And OMI was like, it just gone up massively, like 3,000x. And I was like, eeks. But now like prices or places have somewhat reversed. I mean, a lot of collectibles are down too, but Veve is the OMI token is way down.
I think as long as, they're kind of not holding off, but they're waiting to time the OMI utility. If, Bitcoin and ETH keep going up, I don't know if this is the true end of the bear and the beginning of the bull, or if you have another retracement before we actually get super bullish. But, as more money goes into that, and as long as people are diversified a little bit, if they have 20,000 of Bitcoin and then the next couple months, suddenly they have 30,000 worth of Bitcoin. Hey, I just made $10,000, and then they have some ETH, and the money flows there. Hey, I just made more money. Likely, Veve NFTs would outperform OMI in the short term. But again, once you start rocking and rolling with bronze tickets and OMI to accessory, you can't put that toothpaste back in the tube. That case of domino is just going to keep on going. So I would definitely say OMI outperforms everything in the long run, but short term, likely the Veve NFTs.
Yeah, likely. Like people keep expecting Veve or Akomi to talk about it that much. Why would you expect them to talk about it? The U.S. regulators, the SEC, is still going hot and heavy after crypto companies. It's better if they don't even mention the word OMI once. Why put themselves on the radar of the SEC, who's like shooting a machine gun at as many crypto companies as possible? Just don't bring up OMI. Don't have the team talk about OMI at all. I'm cool with that. I get why. Now, is the SEC being fair? Well, one judge said they were being capricious and whatever else. So I think the judge might be onto something. So,
I assume most people watching this would have seen that SafeMoon got I guess sued by the SEC recently.
Well, they got locked up.
A lot of you guys will know about SafeMoon, right? Like
they were stealing money though from their liquidity pool.
So, that's not.
They were scamming you.
That's why they were arrested for it. But then the SEC was also saying that they were selling unregistered securities, right? So they call it SafeMoon a security, and that's the danger. I mean, you look at XRP and the lawsuits that they've had to go through, right, and everything like that. It's a mess, and so companies don't want to put a target on their back if they don't need to. But at some point
it will bankrupt most companies. Now, maybe it doesn't bankrupt Akomi, but maybe it does. And so it's just like, it's better not to poke your head up when the machine gun is firing.
I think more than anything, I think what people want is just forward movement on the token, right? Implementation and further development.
I'm curious on Rain's thoughts for you said like maybe it could bankrupt the OMI token. Like how much did XRP and Ripple spend on that lawsuit these last years?
They spent $200 million. So almost no companies in crypto have those kind of funds.
Okay. So worst case scenario.
There's already some precedent now. So you wouldn't have to spend as much because them going after SafeMoon is a security. If SafeMoon has the money to fight that, they're probably going to win because there is now precedent that people buying it on an exchange, even a DEX, is not a security. This is just the SEC trying to further establish dominion over crypto and declare everything they possibly can as a security. For whatever reason that's on their agenda, Anthony Scaramucci, is that his first name, was talking about Washington, inside Washington. And he said basically Elizabeth Warren for stepping down so that Joe Biden could get enough support to win the primary against Bernie Sanders, she got some heavy rewards promised to her. And one of those rewards was that she would have full sway over what she wanted to do with the finance sector, which she put her man in, Gary Gensler. Is all starting to make sense with Elizabeth Warren and the anti-crypto army. When he said that, I was like, oh, that makes so much sense. Because where is this whole anti-crypto narrative coming from? Because if you listen to 2017 Gary Gensler, he was a different person. In fact, he would be trying to lock up 2017 Gary Gensler. Like 2023 Gary Gensler I'm surprised he hasn't pressed charges against 2017 Gary Gensler. So what the heck happened to him? You know, because 2017 Gary Gensler was shilling what now would be securities.
Yeah, we need that timeline to cross so they can both disappear.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Point, like there was another former regulator saying that if a judge came out and said you were acting capricious, like for most people, that would be a career-ending decision as the chief regulator. So that didn't go well, and he's trying to get some last wins. And for some reason, he has enough backing that he's still continuing with this fight. But if there's a couple more decisions that go really poorly from him, all his political capital is going to be spent, and they're going to have to surrender those arguments. So that's crazy that they tried to, once again, declare SafeMoon as security. But if you get tangled up with the regulator, they have a lot more money. Like for them, they might have spent $50 million fighting Ripple, and Ripple had to defend themselves, might have spent $200 million.
So let's say they don't have to spend as much. Let's say, you know, worse happens and, you know, OMI is involved in this case and they have to defend themselves. Okay, 150 million. Likely Veve or OMI by themselves right now, just on their P&L on the balance sheet in the war chest, probably does not have that. I did a video on this the other day, estimated 20-ish, between 20 and 30 million. But if they go and they say, hey, we have a ton of equity built in our company, multi-billion dollars, let's just say minimum is 2 billion or max is 2 billion. They go and they sell, and they have to sell a piece of it, let's say 10%. They get 200 million, 150 is used for that. And do they want to do that? Probably not, at least not for that reason. Yeah. But either do that or die. And that's, so in the worst case scenario, yeah, it would take X amount of more time and it would, you know, cost a blue bloody fortune as in 150 million, but they'd be fine. They'd do it.
So the key takeaway is don't expect them to talk about things that are going to cause the problem. It's kind of like asking them to speed past a cop. Like, why would you want them to? And why would you want them to talk about the token? And just kind of that kind of flouts things in front of the regulators, and it gets the regulators' attention and puts the target on their back. Don't put a target on your back. Just keep doing what you're doing. Like Danny said, just keep working on the utility and other things. Just keep doing the development. And don't expect that they're going to be dumb enough to answer questions like that. And I would just ask you not be dumb enough to ask questions like that until like there's more regulatory clarity from the US. Most of the other countries, it's somewhat settled. It's just the US and it's just this regulator. Most of the lawmakers seem to be behind the crypto space. It's just this regulator still trying to act like a cowboy, even though he's lost some big battles. And he has won some. He's got a bunch of people to settle, because if they come to you and they say, pay 3 million or defend yourself on this, you're like, defending myself, I might spend 100 million. Most of them just paying 3 million and saying, yes, we're security, we're sorry, what he wants to do.
But that's not winning, right? Like, so they haven't, I don't know of any battles that actually really won in court, though. And that's the issue, right? But yeah, so they can bully some of these projects, right? But you have a list of tokens that the SEC is named, right, as securities. You got Cosmos and Binance, like BNB, Chili's, right, Near Flow token, Dash Nexo, like, and and Solana and Cardano, which I thought was so funny that they named Cardano. But that's the thing, right? They're throwing out all of these names and seeing what sticks. And again, if they can bully a lot of these companies into just settling, they're going to do that. And so it's better just be cautious about some of this, right?
But those aren't directly at those companies, or that's directed towards Coinbase, right? So that's their new tech.
No, they also directed lawsuits towards all those companies too.
Towards Cardano? I don't think so. Solana, I think it's
my understanding is that they've issued
they're not individual lawsuits against the projects.
I thought they had declared them as securities.
No, I think they were labeled securities in the accusations against Coinbase. That's what I understood.
They're
as
going
well.
after
So
Coinbase
there's
as
actually
selling.
no process going on them. They just said those are all securities.
Yeah, and you're selling them.
As far as I understand. Yeah.
And,
But my
and the
understanding
judge
is
has
that they're
already
also
settled
issuing-
that issue. That doesn't mean, and I don't think they're challenging it. So that makes the lawsuit by defense by Coinbase, who thankfully has funds to defend themselves, much, much, much better.
Hold on, I'm looking for the information because I believe that the SEC has also issued certain documents that are saying it's basically like an action that like we are going after you, but it's like a request for information, or I'm trying to remember what the term is called here. I'm blanking on it for right now. But regardless, I guess like the whole point is right that we're making is why is Veve going to put themselves in the crosshairs of the SEC unnecessarily? There may come a time where they're like, all right, like we're gonna have to do this, and so let's go full-fledged in this. But I think that if they can build out true utility to the token beforehand, and demonstrate that it's more of a utility token, then I think that there's less issue with that. And that's one of the things that I think that they're trying to do is build out that utility before they get it in like on bigger exchanges or on exchanges, right, where it could come up and be noticed by the SEC.
But I do think that one of the things that people are concerned about is the changing utility, right? And how the last OUP article stated that it was going to be used in Veveverse and it would have multiple utilities in there. And then you get a shift in like hesitancy from David. And so the roadmap for utility, people are now, I guess, some have lost some confidence in, especially when they haven't, they've only delivered a small part of it. And that's why they're eager to hear about it, is because they want confirmation and confidence restored.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So,
it's funny, right? You get things like making so many excuses for the team. Kirkleberry, let me ask you a question. Have you ever run a company with 10 employees? Have you? Like, really? Have you? And if you have, fantastic. So you get it, and you get the difficulty of running a company probably with 100 or 200 or 300 employees. And then it's difficult. So making excuses, I don't know. I was concerned 12, 14 months ago when I felt like their development team wasn't what it needed to be in order to fix things fast enough. And then they got that squared away in the right direction. And since then, I'm really impressed with what they're doing. So I guess you just are holding them to a standard that maybe I'm not and everyone else here isn't. Why you're holding them to that standard, I don't know. I think it's lack of business experience, but maybe I'm wrong. If you've got I graduated business consulting. I worked for Accenture for a number of years. I did real estate. I've been around a lot of business, and maybe I'm way off on this because I could be. And you might have run a 1 million person company, and you might know 100 times more than me. And if so, I'd love to be wrong. I'd love to see it the way you do, because if that's your background, fuck, I need to be listening to you, and by all means. But if you haven't run a company with more than 10 people, just maybe there's some things you don't understand about the logistics behind how difficult the problems they're trying to accomplish are.
But this is also an international company that has to deal with international laws, like laws all over the globe, and so it's not even just as simple as a company with 10 employees in some state or some county. Like, this is an international company, and so look, I think that we bring this up to make counter arguments to things, but like, we do listen to the concerns of the community. We take that into consideration. Then we're saying, well, here's my thoughts on these concerns. This is how I'm viewing it. That doesn't necessarily mean that we're right. Like at the end of the day, right? I'm not in those meetings to understand truly what those conversations are, but I'm telling you, I have a lot of experience in understanding the regulatory framework of in the financial industry, and I've seen things like that and the concerns that companies talk about like that. So that's where my voice is coming from.
Yeah,
I don't know. I think I have to also go a little bit against the statement that someone has to have run the company with 10 employees and I don't know what to be able to criticize the behavior, the communication of the team at the moment. Because otherwise, the consequence of this is that I also cannot make positive content about the Ecomi and Veve because I've never run a company and cannot judge in the positive way as well. So yeah, I don't know. I think it's just we should be discussing the facts, what is coming out, the communication and everything. And I mean, if he's upset about his investment or stuff that he has invested, how it performed, and based on what has been said, then I think he doesn't have to be a CEO to do that.
Well, that's not specifically what he was doing there. He was criticizing us defending the team. In other words, he was dismissing our arguments as, oh, you're just defending the team. That's what I was attacking, because that statement should be attacked. Now, if you don't agree with our arguments and stuff, that's fine. And just say, shoot, you know, I'm still concerned about this. And that's a fair argument. If you're saying, oh, you're making so many excuses for the team, it's like, yeah, that's the part that I didn't find cool. And then that was specifically like, have you run a company? Because you say we're making excuses. Maybe we're trying to provide clarity for how difficult the things that are on our end. We all just want them fixed like this, but there are logistical complications to that. And there's time constraints and other things. I worked at a company with development life cycles, and it's like sometimes things take 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 years to do them right. So just that experience helped me understand that it doesn't mean they're not smart people and they're not going the right direction, but what you're asking doesn't get solved tomorrow. And so, yeah, specifically, I was calling out his specific thing of, you're just making excuses for the team. And so then I was asking for clarity on his background, because maybe he doesn't understand the difficulties there are in that. And that's why he feels like it's just excuses.
I was going to say, I will agree with the Alchemist here. That would be great if we could get a roadmap, and a sort of updated one. And I believe that might be happening towards the end of the year, start of next year, just from things I've heard. Obviously, speculation. We don't really know, but potentially, you know, we've got that event coming up in January next year in France, right? The Crypto XR one. And if you guys look on the website, it literally says soon with the OMI red circle on the website.
No, I think that someone, have you looked at the website?
Yeah, it's on the website. I got a screenshot from the website.
On the website, for
it's
sure.
on the website.
But Veve, the Komi team didn't make that themselves.
There's somebody that's doing the event did. It's not necessarily an OMI holder.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So we don't know.
But here's one thing.
And David Dan's there.
It's important to not look at Veve in a vacuum, Veve and the Komi team in a vacuum, right? And we can say, what else is like the space doing? So, for example, like Bored Ape Yacht Club, right? One of the biggest decentralized, like everyone points to Bored Ape as this Web3 giant, and they're doing everything right. But they made changes to their Ape coin, right? So the plan was for Ape to be an in-game currency in their minigame Lord of the Mara. And yet, with all the regulation fears, they changed it and they created a separate in-game currency that they call Mist. You can buy Mist with Ape, but you can't sell your Mist back. So it's essentially trapped value, like Web 2 game, right? But no one sits there. So like, I think it's important to take a step back and say, what is the industry doing? And we can sit there and say, well, look at all of these other companies that they're not concerned about it, and they're talking about the token, they're doing all these things. But then what about the major companies that have a lot of money at stake, like Bored Ape, and what are they doing, right? Because they plan to be around in longer than 3 to 5 years, and how are they handling things? And we have a perfect example with the Ape token and how they've changed what they initially said they were going to do, right? And so when we say, oh, this is the same excuse that's been happening for 2 years, correct, because there has been a lack of regulatory clarity around crypto and the token and what is considered security for over 2 years. So I'm sorry, like if it sounds like we're repeating the same thing, but honestly, that's what like Coinbase is going in front of Congress, and they're saying this. We need clarity. We don't know what we can do. You keep saying, "Oh, just come and talk to us." We try to come and talk to you, and then you slam us when you provide us we provide you information. You slam us with these lawsuits and say that we're listing these securities, but you don't give us answers to the questions we came in to talk to you about. So, like, it's frustrating for the crypto right now, and so many projects that are trying to be legitimate are very antsy about they don't want to make the wrong step and get targeted by the SEC.
I think the worry here with the Komi team not communicating anything about the Komi, and on the other side, let's say us saying, hey, this is for SEC reasons, security reasons. I think the main worry of the people is that if they cannot comment on the OMI token, they also cannot control the narrative, and the narrative is the most important thing to make the token pump in the bull run. So probably people are worried that they are not giving the extra fuel to the fire in the bull run that actually makes the back go up, because that's why most people hold the token in the first place. So many people out there don't have a 8 or 12 or 16-year time horizon for the OMI token, but a 4-year one, of which 2 years have passed. That's basically, I think that's where there's the view of the team who is looking at the use of the token in 8 years versus all the bag holders that are looking in, what about the bull run right now? Halving is coming up in 174 days. Start controlling the narrative, because that's basically what people think and expect. And then obviously no one wants to hear, hey, don't talk about it because Gensler could hear us, right? So it's like, no, scream it from the rooftops. We have the best token with the biggest utility and so on. Like, show it to everyone, right? So I think that's where the views really clash.
So patient hodler, I fully agree with everything you said. But if I'm right about that crypto XR event, right, that's 90 days, roughly 90 days from now. So that'll still be 70, 80 days or whatever before the Bitcoin halving. So that might be taking control of the narrative, exactly like you're saying, with the token. And we know David said they're talking at both Veve and OMI at the event. So we know that there will be something. So maybe we'll get a new roadmap.
And also just down the road, I think these lawsuits go poorly for the SEC, and many judges, doesn't matter if they were appointed by Republicans and Democrats, most have gone against the SEC because they're really lone wolfing this. Let's declare everything a security based on laws that were written in 1930 and make all this new crypto technology securities because they might go up in value. And it's just not holding well in court. And so like later, if Coinbase wins, which maybe they win in a summary judgment or an early judgment, because some of this is already settled law based on a judge's decision, and then it just becomes less likely and less damaging if they have to face an SEC lawsuit. So the more time that goes on, the better it is for OMI and every other crypto project. I advise 3 projects, and I've been speaking to one about this exact issue, and they asked me, is it okay? Like, what should we do? And it's like, keep your head down while the machine gun is firing. Why would you you don't want to get their attention. Let Coinbase's lawsuit settle, and then you can say things that for now just you don't even want to say. You don't want to address your token. Talk about it, other things.
I just want to address Caro's question about the DAO deciding to change on the Ape token. Correct. But who are the people who are the largest holders of ApeCoin? And they're the leaders of the project. So I've had this discussion a little bit with Kyle Wilson about, a DAO. And I think a DAO can be a good idea, but if the large majority of holders are the team themselves of the token, you really don't get a say, and so that's my contention there. I do believe that the Bored Ape team, the founders, were the ones who ultimately made that decision. But yes, correct, the DAO did make that decision, but also why did they make that decision? And I think it's concerns around the regulatory stance and framework and the lack of clarity there.
Yeah, but again, I think it always will go back to more than words, actions, right? That's what people really want, and that's what's been lacking in terms of the token, is that it's been really slow to gain any true traction. We had a little bit of it in August, and we saw the enthusiasm that came from it, right? And you saw how it went almost doubled from the low of 0005 to 0012. What happened since then was a natural cooling off, right? Which is natural after such a run up. But then the rest of crypto started pumping and running, and everyone is seeing Solana at $46, ADA at whatever, 37 cents, and all these micro caps doubling. And yet OMI hasn't done anything. And then that accentuates the bear narrative, right? There's a bull case and a bear case for every token. And there's a bullish narrative and a bearish narrative. And when the token is down and everything else is running, that narrative will take, just getting something done will help shift that.
Well, what's funny is a lot of people want to see the token price up so they can feel good about their investment. And maybe because I've been doing this for so long, I I don't feel just a little bit confident about where it's likely to be. I feel like extremely, maybe even overconfident about where the value is going to be. So I don't pray that it goes up in the short term. I pray that it stays down in the short term, because long term, unless something bad happens to the company, I know where this can go. As these things that they're putting in place roll out, it's going to be freaking amazing and monstrous. So please stay cheap. Whatever billionaire tokens or billionaires have, sell your tokens, sell them to us for, I don't know, 0.05 cents. Sounds like a great price, please. And you just give me an idea. I might sell some more of my Cardano because it's up, to buy OMI, which is down. And that's just what I do as an investor. I'm not saying, I'm going to buy more Cardano and I'm going to sell my OMI. That would be like, wait, what? I'm going to sell my OMI at a discount, buy more Cardano? No, I'm going to sell my Cardano and buy more OMI. And I love Cardano. It's up. It's 2x. And OMI's half x. So, yes, time to sell some Cardano and buy more OMI.
Right, and you missed Rolex yesterday. He was on the podcast, he came on like the 9th or 10th hour, and he was saying how he's got 10,000 NFTs or whatever, on VV, and then we're kind of getting on him because he doesn't have much OMI, and he's like, well, when I go in, I'm going in. I'm not getting 10 million. I'm gonna get 100 million, and he wasn't aware that he couldn't just buy 100 million, at least not in one go. I was like, listen, it's going to take you a week to do that. You have to do a couple million here, 10 million there.
It's a week.
So he's like, well, I want to go in and I want to go hard. He's like, does anyone know any people that have a couple billion OMI that'd be willing to sell off, 100 million? I think, Jordan, did you connect with him?
Yeah, well, it's really funny that so you call him Rolled?
Rolex. Rolly.
Dr. Rolex. Yeah, but he's just very minimum. He wants to get 100 million. If he's gonna go in, he's going in pretty hard.
You got some competition.
I know of people that have connections with people that have billions of OMI that might want to offload a little bit, so they can do it, over the counter deal. Because we're talking about if he bought 100 million OMI from the exchange, if you can even get that many, it would pump it to probably 1 cent straight up. So he would
might be
get a very good average price.
Yeah, actually, that's not impossible to get that. I mean, we have just seen a couple of days ago that someone moved 2.3 billion OMI to OKX, so there is plenty to buy through. And that's also something earlier I didn't answer the question when they asked about Vivi or OMI, what's the better investment? I think both have their massive up and downsides, because the Vivi collectibles, if there's high scarcity and liquidity concentrates on a Vivi collectible, there's no comparison to market cap. There's no transparency. It's just someone flexing, buying. The price can go everywhere, basically all over the place. But you sometimes do not have any liquidity, and the collectible just sits there and doesn't sell. Whereas on the Komi token, I see the problem that price goes up, and then there are billions. There are wallets filled with billions that are able to sell into a pump, like we have seen right now, from the base up 110%. And then we saw some wallets getting active again that have more than 1 billion in it, way more, and selling into that. So I think there's massive excitement needed to burn through that initial selling. So we need 5 Randys and 5 Jordans DCing an entire year to go through these 2.3 billion. So
2.3 billion.
Oh wait, so can you repeat that last part again, real quick?
You hear that?
What do you say?
The price stays down for 3 months with OMI, and some people get so mad about that. But it's why not DCA in? And some people put their bags in, and they just want to see it go in. They don't want to put in another penny till they get confirmation that it can go up. And I get that. I was once new to crypto too, and I felt similarly. I'm not new to crypto anymore, and I do not feel that way anymore.
As far as I think Patient Hodler was talking about 2.3 billion and how long that would take to buy up, right? So there was another comment. I'm not 100% sure where it was. I'll check on mine, because there's a lot of comments on all of ours that were saying, there's going to be a lot of basically a lot of sell pressure, and because we're not on that many exchanges, it's going to take a while. If there was, I don't know if there is a super major whale that is budding and that would want to liquidate, 10 billion all at once. But the volume that we have, 700,000 in volume each day, which is pretty much nothing. And I'm not sure how much of those are trading bots. But where this should be once we get on those exchanges, even if this super major footer that has 10 billion, which I don't even think any of them do anymore. I think they have much less than that. But even if they do, and they wanted to sell that all at once, and it's like, okay, let's say it's a penny, and that's $100 million. How long is that going to take, for us to buy through? Well, I'm not going to say that we're going to have 100 million volume a day, although I think at some points we will. But let's say we have 20 million in volume each day. Okay, it takes 5 days to get through that wall, and that's it. So it's going to be pretty easy to go.
Only if the volume comprises only buying, because volume is buying and selling, right? So
yeah,
only if it's 100% buying.
I mean, like I said, I don't see us having 100 million a day, but I think 20 million in buying each day is probably pretty reasonable.
Yeah, I think once the exchange listings are rolling, I would not be worried about this. I'm only worried about these massive amounts because I saw the price being locked between two big orders several times when they tried to have these trades, which is for them a lot of money for the whales. But the moment that we have exchange, and that's why people are like, hey, when do we get the first exchange? It's like the other exchanges that want to take part in that liquidity have to buy a massive share of OMI to fill up their supply wallet and to have the bots start the trading and so on. I think that in itself would probably result in that a lot of the exchanges will approach those whales and lock in some OTC deals for, I don't know how many billions, or 1 or 2 billion for each exchange, and then probably it doesn't even appear on the order books anymore. So I could imagine that they just approach Joseph Janik or someone else and like, hey, how much do I have to pay for 1 billion OMI for our funding wallet? Something like that.
So this is why you don't pay attention to the people who aren't successful. I'm sorry, but OG Vault saying crypto rain is down 95%, pretending he's like a crypto genius. Have you watched any of Crypto Rain's videos where he talked about buying Cardano, buying all these tokens when they're at their lows, buying the basketball NFTs? What are those called?
NBA Top Shots.
And NBA Top Shots and stuff like that. Crypto Rain has made millions. OG Vault. So yeah, he is a crypto genius. So like, and I love, I just have to laugh at that, man. Like, you continue to lose credibility with stuff like that, again, make a point. So like, if he's not a crypto genius, like, what have you done compared to him that makes you smarter than he is? I would love to hear that argument, please.
He's got a good name, OG Vault. That's a cool name, and I'll hand it to him. I like that part.
Well, he changed it from
is actually the same as it was in the bull market, at the top of the bull market. Because I've had some things go poorly for me, but I've had other things go very well for me during a declining market. So maybe that was just luck. Maybe I do not know what I'm talking about, and I've just been lucky.
Yeah, OG Vault made hundreds and hundreds on some of his flips. So
cool.
You should definitely listen to him.
Here, brother. Yeah, I'm going to hire you as my advisor.
So.
Yeah, maybe I should too. I mean, I maybe just buying Tesla super early and Pokemon cards and high-risk lending. It was probably because I was lucky as well. I don't think it had anything to do with intelligence. I should bow down.
You're just repeatedly lucky, Randy.
I should bow my head in the presence of greatness.
Yeah, I do take risky decisions. I've had some companies I've invested in completely fail, and some go 1,000x. So it's like I deal in the risky space. Not as risky of a space as when I first came in. I no longer touch meme coins and haven't for years and other things. So I've kind of narrowed and focused my risk. But some of the stuff is early stage startups I invest in. I invested in Komi when they launched, and that was a risky period. Like David said, the chance that they were going to make it was like 0 chance. And I invested in them as they were early days raising money. And my chances were low that they would succeed, but they did.
What year was that, Ryan? Is that like 2017?
2018.
2018. Man, that's crazy. So that's 5 years. And most of those people that invested then, they're up like 20, 30x, right, from the bottom.
Most of those people sold in the bear market. Like, it's just crazy that a lot of these people don't have vision. Like my friend who put together the fund, guess what he did? Now, he sold some right away when the token first launched. He made some money. He sold the rest of his bags over the bear market, and like he only made a tiny bit of money. Why he sold his last distributions at such a loss, I just don't get his choices on that. Like, I would have just held it, and then it went like 3,000x from the prices he was selling his remaining distributions at. Brother, come on.
It's funny. So, I was going to say that MetaMask is a good way to buy and sell OMI right now. They've actually got a lot of liquidity in Uniswap. They didn't used to. What I was going to say as well is, just remember, we had less exchanges than we have now. We didn't have OKX when OMI hit 1.3 cents, and the daily volume was in the hundreds of millions of dollars of daily volume. So that's what we had last time with less exchanges than now. So I think with enough utility, enough exposure to the token, that we can still pump even without more exchanges. Obviously, we want more exchanges. That will help. But I don't think that's something we absolutely need.
Like, well, I think that it was its first run, and usually a token's first run is its best run. Two, there was obviously, we know that there was more behind that in terms of like the Logan Paul stuff and all that other stuff that went on with the guy who used to work for Comey. So I think this time around, I think it will take some positive catalyst, which really aren't that much, exchanges and utility. But I do think that we need some more this time.
Yeah, for sure. It would definitely help.
I think the power is just higher if you are on exchanges and people can take profits from something like Bitcoin, Ethereum, and roll it directly on that exchange into another coin. But if you have to first, okay, let's sell it for USDT, then I send USDT over to fucking Bitmart or something like that and to buy OMI, it's like, oh, I have to make an account on OKX because my Binance, my Coinbase, my Kraken, and my KuCoin account are not listing OMI. So it's very likely that someone chooses another altcoin if they are just sprinkling profits in.
But you're aware OKX is actually a bigger exchange than those other ones you listed, right? OKX is, I think, second in the world in terms of volume now.
Yeah, but I mean, it's like what 24-hour daily volume. It's not that, probably not that per user, right? It's like somewhat volume,
I
because
think
if you look at the big rankings, like, okay, it's the second biggest, so you want to say that OKX is now a bigger exchange than Coinbase, so don't even mind them. There's only Binance to conquer right now. So
I think it's volume, right? So yeah, I think by volume, OKX is second biggest. So because there's a lot of traders on there. I've got friends that trade.
Let's deduct the wash traded volume, and then we're there. Yeah. But yes, I get your point. OKX is not a small one, but you also you cannot forget that in the last bull run we had Gate.io as a full exchange when they were still operating in the US. So they had a ton of volume, which they don't have anymore. They had to cut out almost all volume countries, and now Gate.io is just.
Oh, is that why they died? Because they do nothing now, right? Like their volume is absolutely nothing.
Yeah, they did have to. You started to have to. Any US user had to basically move out all of their tokens. You couldn't use it anymore.
And 30 other countries.
I use Gate.io quite a bit, so that's a great point.
We've got a few comments. And I spoke to MC1 earlier in the chat. He said he's going to come on around the Comiverse sometime. So that'll be awesome. Sanjay?
Great. That's awesome.
OMI to me is utility token and sustainable value creation. OMI needs to have extreme value on VV. Other colors are short term and temporary. Yeah, that's a great opinion.
So I like, and I put on the little narrative underneath of this stream that we would talk about VV's social handling of their socials and the concerns about that, right? And I say that because Mr. MC1, Sanjay, he made quite a long post about like his thoughts on VV blocking, the likes of Cavell and unfollowing some of these people that have been attacking VV pretty substantially over the last well, I mean, I don't even know. I haven't been looking how long, but it's most of the posts, not all of them, but a lot of those posts have been attacking Veve and things, and there's a lot of uproar. I'd love to hear you guys' thoughts on that.
Yeah, I mean, obviously they have a right to block whoever they want, but I don't think it's a good strategy, to be quite honest. I think that it just kind of adds fuel to the fire and engages in negative conversation, and antagonizes. And I think as a company, you know, you're gonna take heat at times. People are gonna be critical. People are going to fudge you, and sometimes you need to just rise above it and ignore it, because otherwise, now that's the narrative in the community, right? And anytime there's negative sentiment, that's gonna pop up, and you're gonna have people going back and forth. And I don't think, you know, I think that just rising above it and just disproving people with deliverables is your best long-term solution in proving people wrong.
I mean, okay, so what do we move on to a new subject in a week? I feel like there's new things to talk about each week. So yes, they're getting a little bit of FUD right now because they're blocking some people. I think rightfully so that they're blocking them. So either they take a little bit of FUD now and they don't have to deal with those FUDders commenting on their stuff all the time.
But they'll always come back. People will always circle back.
I mean, I guess with other accounts they can, sure, that's fine.
But those accounts don't have the same following. That's a big deal, right?
But even with this account, so they just can't see what Veve's posting, but they're free to say whatever they want and still say the same things.
But it's not on Veve's.
They can't
it's
tag.
Not on Veve's post.
Yeah, it's not on their feeds and things. You know, they can't tag them like that. And my thing, there's a difference, and people are kind of mixing it. I love constructive criticism. And when people are true, like I really appreciate Patient Hodler. I think that he brings up, and Denny, you know, like people who bring up concerns, like I appreciate that when they're sitting there saying, here's what's happened and here's why I'm concerned about that. That is absolutely fine. And you don't see Veve blocking people like that. But the people that they have started to block are the ones who are like, Veve's a scam, the team's a scammers, this is all a rug pull and all this. And it's just like, you know what? Like, you built your community, literally your followers and YouTube channel off of us. And you know what? We're just going to cut you off at the knees. You know what I mean? And if you want to keep talking bad about us, that's fine. But most of the community is going to stop following you, and you're not going to be able to leverage our brand anymore on that, right? Like we're cutting you off there. And I think it's a strong message. And I say that. So look, back in the day, I used to work at a fast food restaurant, right? And there were some people, I was sitting there at the cash register and taking people's orders. And this guy comes up and he throws this hamburger at me. And I'm just like, yo, like, what the heck? What just happened, right? And the guy's like, open up the sandwich. And I'm like, this is a 60-year-old kid, right? I'm like, okay, right? Like, so I opened it up. He's like, what's on the sandwich? And I was like, I don't know, like the hamburger, ketchup, and pickles. He's like, that's right. Pickles. I didn't order any pickles. And he just like starts freaking out, right? And like I stood there for a second, and then like I just was like, look at the screen, man. Like I took your order and it says no pickles. I didn't make your freaking, you know, like Veve didn't make the regulatory rules. We didn't do some of this stuff. And basically he was asked to leave and to never come back, right? And it's just like, you don't need those toxic people. I don't care if he could be a customer in the future. You don't want people like that, because they're going to find every avenue, every instant to FUD and to complain. And they never comment about the good things anymore. Or if they do, it's like, oh, well, yeah, they got lucky here. And so from my standpoint, I love the constructive criticism, and we need that. Please don't stop bringing up the concerns. That is fantastic. But the way that you deliver those concerns is very important. Again, if you want your voice to be heard, you have to bring it up in a way that's professional and respectful. And if you can't do that, then I can absolutely see why Veve is just going to be like, you know what? We don't need you in our timeline.
Preach. 100%.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, basically, you are blocking people that are just out to harm your business. And that's, if you were screaming in the lobby of a company, they would also take security and throw you out, probably, if you're doing that in a bank or so. So I 100% agree with that. Unless it's starting to get out of hand and like blocking half of the community left and right, but that's not the case, I figure. And what I really like, in contrast to many others, is the trolling. Even though that people have been trolled here and there, like 1-2 posts that I also like. But I don't care. I think it's hilarious. It's funny. And I think a modern company can do that stuff. So maybe to get just into that topic as well.
OG Vault shilling his YouTube channel. That's hilarious, brother. So you come on this to shill your VV as a scam stuff. That's fantastic.
Yeah, that's fine. And he can do that, but he doesn't get to tag Veve in the comments and again leverage Veve's users and subscribership to do that. They're not, they're not requesting Twitter pull down that channel or reporting his channel or flagging it, right? They're just saying you're just not going to be a part of this, right? I mean, OG Vault built his community and all of those subscribers off of Veve, back of Veve, and all those videos that he did, so.
I mean, also having Veve in
great time to say a year from now, or even 2 years from now, let's set a timeline. Let's have a discussion. Let's just see how OMI did from here and make your picks. I don't see you making any picks. I don't see you saying Solana or this. It's really easy to criticize everything, but what are your picks? What are your 2 top ones? Let's just see how they perform a year from now. If your ones outperform mine, oh, cool. I'm man enough to own it, but are you man enough to own it when you make some calls and you actually put a line in the sand and then whatever you're saying doesn't perform near as well as OMI does from here? I feel pretty safe in that bet, but maybe you know better. What's your picks? What are you saying is going to do well in a year from now, 2 years from now? Let's just see. Only at 0.07 cents. I feel pretty confident on that.
And we could go and have even like doing a wager. Hey, we can lock up some ETH and some smart contracts, and whatever way it goes, whatever way OMI hits, whether it hits something or doesn't, that ETH will go to whoever wins the bet.
Whoever is the winner of that bet gets to take the other one on a ride around in their Lamborghini.
There you go.
That's assuming you have enough funds to put significant enough funds into something that might turn out significant, and that might not be a fair assumption for me to make. So
that's fine.
If I'm right, yeah, come join me. We'll meet up in Vegas or something. I'll give you a ride in my Lamborghini. If you're right, cool. Meet me in Vegas and we'll go for a ride in yours.
So during that thing for the hey, Super Chat.
Super Chat. Is that yours, Randy?
I don't know. I don't think that's on.
It's on my channel.
I don't
you know
know
the answer to this, Randy?
I do know the answer to this because I saw the reply in the Comey Telegram. I think you need to make sure you've got your passphrase and you need to like reset your wallet. So I don't know how you do that, but uninstall the app and reinstall it and sync it again. It should work. You can look up in Telegram anyway. They have there's answers in Telegram on this exact thing. Let's see.
Why would somebody fudding Veve even go to decon? Like, what's the point? And maybe it's just because, like, Dennis Rodman had to make his position by being like the anti-hero. And so maybe decon or OG Vault couldn't get enough stuff talking about Veve positively. So he's kind of flipped the other role and, hey, cool. That's your marketing niche. That's cool. I mean, clearly that's what you're doing here to get attention. And sometimes people take negative attention if they can't get enough positive attention. That's cool. Hey, teach their own. But we are talking, like, I'm here as an investor. So for me, like, that's why I'm like, tell me what your 2 picks are, because I'm not here to waste my time. I love what Veve's doing. There's an inner collector in me that loves it. But the investor in me loves it even more because I see good potential here that could pay out. Now we're dealing in a realm of, risk and reward and taking chances. It's the kind of chances I look for, and I'm excited about what the possibilities are. And it'll probably play out well for me.
Jordan just put up a comment about something about the Super Bowl. I wanted to bring something up and get opinion from you guys.
Apple Vision Pro.
What? Oh,
It's the Apple Vision Pro. Yeah.
Gotcha. So this started out as a joke in the Gold Silver Logo chat. Someone's like, hey, how much to take out an ad on the Vegas Sphere? And FanBam had messaged, it's $450,000 per day or $650,000 per week. So I went on Twitter, on X, was like, hey, question to all the Veve fam out there. If we all decided to try to get Veve to appear on the Las Vegas Sphere, would you help? If 1,000 people do it, it's $650 US per person. I'd totally sacrifice $1 million OMI to get this advertising bread. So this is a fun thought experiment. I didn't post a wallet. I didn't post a GoFundMe. Like this is just a fun thought experiment. And I'm trying to find the guy. I might have blocked him because he called me a faggot. But he said that I got so much hate on this because like, oh, Veve should do their own advertising. Veve should do their, which agreed. But this is not me saying, hey, let's do it so Veve doesn't have to. I just thought it would be really cool because no other project could do this. I don't think there's any other project out there that the community would want to do something like this without having to ask the thing. I think it would just be a huge flex. I think it would be fun, and I just want to see what people responded. But there was so much.
Says it's got a 2-year wait list. I don't know if that's right. But
oh, that sucks.
It's possible.
But anyway,
that shouldn't concern us as long-term investors.
That's a good point. I just want to do it now.
It is a frustrating time to be in the crypto space, and this is when you see a lot of people capitulate and leave, and that's why you see the market cycle, or like that chart that was done in like literally over 100 years ago about the psychology of a market cycle and how people capitulate at the bottom and they lose hope. And then when it flips around the other way, they're just like so shocked and they just don't understand, and they're just new to this. Has Veve taken longer to do things than we wanted? Yes. Is that normal in business? Yes. Microsoft, need I say anything more? Have you ever in the early days downloaded like Microsoft Windows 2000 when it came out? Same problems. Did Microsoft still do incredibly well? Incredibly well from way back then. So this is normal in business, and crypto, like people funding crypto at the bottom, happens every cycle. This is nothing new. Yet most then listen to people like that and sell, and that's why I like to address it very directly. And then they miss the opportunity of a lifetime because they listen to somebody who doesn't really know what they're talking about, thinks that they're making new novel arguments, and they're not. They're old, tired arguments. They're just new enough they don't realize they're old, tired arguments. And unfortunately, that steers some other people the wrong way because they have a loud voice. And so is it fair to give somebody like that so much attention? No, not really. But who it's fair to is all the other people listening. And I feel sorry for a lot of the audience members that already understand this. And so to them, it's just like, I already get this.
I wanted to talk about, did you guys see the recent post about Veveverse running under Unity engine? And they are going to be running it under, what's it called again? Oh, I've forgotten. Unreal Engine 5.1. I think they said at the end of this year or start of next year, we'll be actually running Unreal, and I'm so looking forward to that. You need a really, really good computer for that. That said, they did say originally they said you were going to be able to use online cloud computing, so that might still be an option. So if you don't have a really fast graphics card, you might be able to pay a small amount to be able to use online cloud computing to do that for you. But more than likely, it's going to run way, way better if you have a really fast graphics card. RTX 3500 plus. Only computer guys will know what that means.
Dan said, I think it was really bullish because we're going to get the Unreal Engine stuff early next year, which means that most people are going to get the Unity stuff end of this year. Now, maybe he misspoke, and maybe I'm misinterpreting and trying to be super bullish, or maybe I'm not supposed to be. But to me, that says that a lot of people are going to get the lesser version of Unity this year, which I'm pretty excited for.
Yeah, I can't wait for that video that's coming out tomorrow.
Yeah, that'll be awesome. I've got to actually bail, guys. I have another commitment that somewhat overlaps this, and I'm late on that appointment. But I appreciate all of your time and appreciate all the comments and the dialogue.
Thanks for coming on, Ray. I appreciate you.
All right, I'll see you all next week. Some of you sooner.
Awesome.
He's gonna miss the Simpsons talk.
Yeah. Who wants to talk about Simpsons first?
Oh, me. I love Simpsons so much. So I'm a big math nerd too, and so for one of my birthdays, my wife, there's all of these math jokes. I don't know if people know this, but a lot of the writers either have like a master's or a PhD in mathematics. And so throughout the years, they have a lot of math jokes that they've inserted like in their episodes and stuff like that. And so my wife had given me this book of, like, that talked about all of the different like math jokes that they've done throughout the years. It's pretty funny, but so a huge Simpsons fan, grew up watching them, right? And people I'm sure have probably seen on Twitter that The Simpsons just did in their Treehouse of Horrors. So every year they do this Treehouse of Horrors episode where it's kind of like Halloween episodes, and they do different things. Well, this latest one was called what is it? The Bart token. Oh, Wild Barts Can't Be Token. A play on Wild Hearts Can't Be Broken. But it's all about basically Bart gets turned into an NFT, and then Marge has to. I can't remember I haven't seen it yet. I was reading about it, but like she has to do something to basically bring back Bart from being an NFT. Right.
Yeah, she has to save him from the blockchain.
Yeah, she has to save him from the blockchain, right? And on there, they basically show it's not a golden moment per se, but like it's like a golden moment of this character on there on a pedestal that's hovering above the circle pedestal. It's gold, right? And so since then, there's been a lot of traction where people were like, "Oh, the Simpsons talked about NFTs." And then there's been a lot of publicity on that Simpsons actually released an NFT on Veve, right? And there's several articles about that. And then like it's crazy. Some of the articles were even talking about how quickly they wrote this article and then talked about how Veve responded to this. I see that and stuff. So there's been a big pump in the market on the Bart and Homer NFT. But then on top of that, something that I saw Dr. Prophet talk about that I didn't know. But that kind of meme of Homer constantly choking Bart, like throughout early episodes, he was doing that all the time, but they have stopped that and it's no longer a thing. So to get that immortalized right in this NFT of Homer choking Bart is kind of crazy. It's kind of crazy.
It's perfect, and I'm glad you brought that up because it was so ubiquitous at one point that they turned it into an NFT. So to get to Rob Stone's message, his super chat, I don't think it was symbolic for NNN. I think it was symbolic for the what he used to do in the past and what he's no longer doing. So I don't think November had anything to do with it.
Yeah, probably not. Would be my guess as well.
SoCal said you can use Cavernous free trial to try with Blender Unreal 5, and then I guess it gives you sort of an example of what it would be a little bit like in the Veverse.
I don't know, Jordan, but I quickly want to go back because I feel like no one has really answered to that whole Vegas globe thing from Randy, and I just wanted to ask: is $500,000, right? What do you get for this? Like, is this like the entire day like advertisement, or is it how long is it?
For $450, it's for a day. For $650, it's for the week, and it's just it kind of has. Have you seen it?
Yeah, I saw a Coca-Cola one or something like that, or anything, something red. Like it looks like a crashed planet into the Earth. So.
Yeah, they had the one that I posted with it happened to be the advertisement that Sony did for Spider-Man.
Oh yeah, that's what I saw. It wasn't Coca-Cola, Spider-Man. Yeah.
Yeah, which by the way, now Miles Morales is going to be the main Spider-Man in these games moving forward. So it's probably why a bunch of these Miles were sold. Anyway, so that's what you get. You just get that in various forms. They'll change it, over the course of the week.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so and then inside there's also show, but that has nothing to do with the outside, or?
I don't believe so. But
I saw some videos from people looking at, I don't know, like massive landscape inside of that orb. I don't know if that's inside of that, but yeah, could be a funny idea at least. But for $500,000, you at this liquidity, you could skyrocket the
the price. But that's with 1,000 people, $650 is a lot. But 10,000 people, $65. Well, that's a drop on Veve, And again, I wouldn't expect.
I was thinking about the mechanic, what like collective financial power could do in another way. Like, for example, you create something like I don't know, it's probably illegal, but I will say it anyways. So you create something like an ETF that just randomly buys Veve collectibles from the market, for example. Yeah, like a Veve collectible spot ETF as a community, something like that.
That'd be cool.
I don't think you could do that, like, because they have to have like enough of something to be able to continue to purchase up as there's more interest in it. So they could buy up the whole thing and then it would just stay there. Like, yeah, I don't know how that would work. That's funny though. But I've often wondered, I was actually talking to Randy about this, right? But like, who is this Bezos man? And could it be some sort of hedge fund or something that really has the funds to do that? Because like, I mean, it could be an individual, right? Or it could be like, because I remember at one point David was talking about some Singaporean hedge fund that had gotten approval to purchase NFTs or invest in crypto or something like that. I'm not saying that that's who it is, but like it is very interesting that is something that could be set up where a hedge fund just has an account, and instead of a Bitcoin or a NFT spot ETF, they just purchase some of these and they're just holding it for the long term, right? They're like, we're going to buy a lot of these FAs, and maybe the Simpsons or I do think, look, at one point Visa, I think it was Visa bought a Bored Ape, right? And I think it was a marketing thing, but also like some of these companies could start saying, hey, we're going to purchase some of this IP because we do think like long term, this could be a thing. Insurance companies are constantly looking at investments and things. So if there's more regulatory clarity around that and how they have to account for that on their balance sheet, which there is a lack of clarity around that, especially with NFTs. We're getting more clarity regarding Bitcoin, which is awesome. But that is something in the future that really could happen.
That's crazy to think about what you could actually do if you group up. Also, when some collectibles are out of range for people to get, like fractional ownership or something like that. But
I would really love to see that. I think HSBC has this thing now for fractional ownership of gold, and each of these tokens are like 0.001 ounces of gold. And what happened was part of the reason why I think Tesla blew up in 2020 was partly because it was super undervalued for so long, partly because it was really hard for people to go and spend $500 or $900 on one share. If you only had that much, a financial advisor would be like, I don't want you to just buy one thing. They want to buy a little bit of Square, a little bit of Fastly, Illumina, whatever. But when Cash App had the fractional shares for all these stocks, a bunch of these things that were out of pocket for these people, they just blew the heck up. So I think that would really help some of these things. Because I would love to go and own a fraction of another gold logo or a fraction of a Miles Morales. I don't have $8,000 for a Miles Morales, but I have $800 that I could put in and own 10% of one. I would love to do that.
The hard part would be when you sell that, right? How do you sell it?
You could just sell your shares to someone else.
Okay. We have a good question here. Do you guys, anyone want to answer this one?
Yeah.
I think we expect IP Worlds, right? But we're not sure about.
Well, they already announced Ron English's Delusionville. So like they already announced an IP branded world, and that's literally phase 2. So as soon as phase 1's over and we have the home space and we have OMI to accessory, IP branded worlds are literally that next phase that I'm sure they're already working on and have been working on for more than a year. Which ones they are, I have no idea. But the ones that we get, I would imagine be around Ron English's stuff. I would love to see like Cryptkins. I would love to see Marvel Mighties. I feel like that's too wonderful. But I think like any of the smaller stuff like that would be really cool.
And anybody want to answer this one? When are you guys going to be disappointed if there's no news utility for OMI? So I said Jan-Feb next year. It's about 2.
Ideally, I would like to see those bronze tickets at least roll out by January, February. I don't expect it end of the year. Just really before I want something just because I don't want to hear all that noise and the frustrations. Because as you get closer to having, the anxiety will ratchet up for a lot of people.
Patient Hodler, was that January 5th or May 1st?
I think May 1st, right?
Yeah, May 1st for us.
All right. For the US,
May 1st. It's May 1st. All right. Yeah.
You got to think that he's more patient than us, Randy.
I would give him to the end of Q1. If there's absolutely nothing by the end of Q1, I would be quite crestfallen.
Would you FUD? Would you get blocked by Vivi? For flooding?
So there's. I feel like people only they never talk about when I criticize, and I remember like it was like it was like a month or two ago, where I don't know if it was an AMA or if it was something, but they didn't mention OMI, and I kind of
I remember that, Randy. I was watching your stream. Yeah, I remember that.
and then I said,
You were live streaming an event, the Discord maybe, and they didn't mention.
oh, it might have been, I forget. Yeah, it was something like that. And I remember they didn't say, they said like the token. They just didn't say OMI. And I remember like, hey guys, you remember in 2016 when the Trump Hillary debates were coming out, and Trump for whatever reason couldn't say that he condemned white supremacists, and Hillary for whatever reason couldn't say law and order. Like, guys, they're just words. You can say it. They can say it, but so I feel like that was like the biggest time where I was like fudding, and I was like, they can't say it. But I feel like nobody like remembers that except for Jordan because he was watching it live.
Yeah, it was funny because I saw your face. You're like, oh my God, they didn't mention it. And I thought the exact same thing. I'm like, we're mad. And I think I made a video too. I came out with a video that said like 1 out of 10 nothing burger or something like that on like a video update. So like, I think all of us along the panel here have been critical at different times.
Yeah.
I've just seen the progress. Like, we got OMI staking. It's very, very basic, but it shows that they are serious about OMI. That made a big difference for me. I was starting to get frustrated. And like we're not just all moon boys all the time. And I think that's something that people probably think we're constantly moon boying, and we're not. We're just like, most of us are quite optimistic. Like I'm super optimistic all the time.
Yeah,
I think the reason a lot of times I come off as moon boyish is because, again, like Dr. Stuff said, healthy criticism is great. You need that, and that's why VV really benefits from having a lot of feedback on Twitter or Discord, wherever. But a lot of the feedback is a little silly, when people's like, "Oh, OMI's on its deathbed," or you have people like, "Oh, the team doesn't care about the token," or "There's zero reason for VV to have the token," and it's like, I think even Danny the Bull said before about people having patience or expectations or confidence, and it's like, okay, well, is the team doing better now than it was a year ago? And what trajectory is the project going? And okay, they have more licenses and they have better tech. Like, they were always making money. Money was never the issue. They have content out for the next 5 years, and that's very conservative. And at some point, what Rain and Dr. Stuff were saying is like, hey, we don't really like the way the tech is going. We don't really like how the app's not really doing too well. And in come Mitch and Nestor, and suddenly the app got a lot better. And it's, as long as it's going in the trajectory that you want and the thesis hasn't changed for the company, I'm fine. That's why I'm confident will not be shaken unless, again, the thesis changes or you see a big 180 in a bad way. I forget what we were talking about. Sorry.
I was gonna say just real quick on that timeline. In the first quarter, and honestly, like, I don't mind. I have definitely, so before I started my own channel, like, I was on Crypto Rain's channel quite a bit. Like, he would have me on like once a week, and it would just be me and him, right? And he would ask me questions about VV, and I comment on things. You can go back, and I talked about the concerns where I was like, I talked about the whole bot situation, and I'm like, VV is saying that there aren't bots, and I'm like, there's no way that that's a true statement. There are absolutely bots. And when people are like, oh no, it's just there's the amount of users and that's why you can't get any drop. And I was like, I'm sorry, I don't believe it, right? Like, and I talked about that, and I'm like, I think that somehow these bots are getting through, and maybe VV's detection systems aren't working there. I talked about the cash out thing and that there are regulatory issues there, but I was like this was promised. Like, I have definitely harped on and brought up concerns and saying, like, this is an issue and I'm concerned about that, right? I talked about this year. I talked about Sowu was talking about, like, they moved the goalposts in December of last year. Mitch was like, VVverse end of year. And then we didn't even hear anything for 2 months, right? And I was like, look, if they're moving the goalpost, they've got to come out and say, like, this is terrible communication strategy here, and this is where it's got to be improved. And that's when I started saying, if I don't see some improvements in their communication style, or at least like the building out, right? If they're not going to communicate it, start really building things out. And I'm like, I want to give Mitch some time, because if he did step into this role and he's got to build this cadence, that does take time to change a culture. of a company and the team, like it does take that. And so I said, I give them till the end of June of this year. And I've definitely seen the build outs that they've had, right? We got the MCP points that are calculating. We still can't use them. I am questioning, when are we going to be able to use those? I think that it's past the time. Now it could be that they're trying to implement the OUP, right? Because it's now like a combined synergistic program with OMI and MCP. And I'm just like, you've got it. Like, there should still be something that you're helping out all these people who have been looking forward to this MCP and that you've been accumulating counting points for since March. You should be doing something there, right? Now, again, am I concerned? Am I stopping investing because of something like that? No, but I do bring those things up. I do think that those are issues that I think, and I'm voicing in a professional way to say, communicate something about that. Please let us know why. So if it is the OUP thing, I'm just making an assumption. Maybe it's not the OUP thing. We'd like to know more, right? Even if you can't give timelines, be like, hey, you've had these points and that have been accumulating. We're building it out. And here's some of the roadblocks or some of the issues. Awesome. It's about communication, transparency.
Yeah, I think they were a little traumatized by by the backlash they got from overpromising and underdelivering in 2021. And now they've gone the complete opposite direction, right? Where they're not saying anything and they're just gonna release things. But then people freak out on that end also, because like people want to know what's going on. And like you just said, what's going on behind the scenes that's not allowing us to use the MCP points. So I think ultimately a balance of communication is necessary. Where you're communicating and telling people what's going on behind the scenes without giving them definitive timelines.
Yeah,
I remember one time making videos very vividly. I think it was the end of the last year, beginning of this year. I think there was DesignerCon and they just had shown pieces of the Weaververse, something like that, on DesignerCon. And I was telling on the videos and also thinking to myself all the time, from all the things that we need, you're talking about Weaver. Everyone is talking about Weaververse. And I was like, please don't launch Weaververse into the bear market, like into the absolute raging, devastating bear market that we had. We were still going down. We hadn't, I think we had maybe bottomed, but no one felt that at the November. And I was like, please don't even think about it this year, right? And then obviously right now we are curving out and everyone wears Weaververse. But to be honest, for me, that was never a question that I want that first, or that is something that needs to come out right now. So I'm really happy if they take their time into after the halving for bringing out something bigger on the Weaververse to catch the excitement there. But and that's why I put the 1st of May, because it's like after the halving, where I want to see something, because it's like, give me exchanges and give me something of maybe like pre-announcement, I don't know, extended beta from the Weaververse or something like that, to write the narrative. But I don't think we need the full Weaververse until then.
Yeah.
Make it good.
Yeah. Well, and so when people were fighting about the Weaververse, and people, like, I listened to that whole interview again, and I literally basically transcribed almost like who asked the question, what the time was, and the response and everything. Because I was like, what did David actually say? Because people were freaking out and they're just like, oh, they're backing away. They're not selling land anymore. And I'm like, that's not what I heard. Let me go back. Maybe I misheard, right? And basically he was saying, like, look, phase 1 is really this extension of your vault, which that they said that a year ago that was the plan.
Yeah, that was nothing different, right?
And then people took him and saying, like, it's not going to be these theme parks and stuff. And everyone's like, oh, like, there's no land. There's not going to be these IP cities and worlds and stuff like we were promised. Vivi's scammers, like they just jump on anything. And that is part of the bear market. But that's why I enjoy these type of conversations where we can bring it back up and address the concerns and saying, hey, what he really talked about, right, was initially that's not the plan. The plan is to build out this. And I want to listen to the people who are in beta testing. That's who I care about, because people can make all of these assumptions and stuff and, it's going to be terrible. But I have not heard anything but amazing reviews from people who have been beta testing the Weaververse and how excited they are and the things that they are building. And so like I'm really excited for it, and I don't expect Ready Player One, and anyone who does hasn't been listening to the team because they've never promised something like that, you know. And but there is patience there. But to Mr. MC1's point about they'll build this all out again, I just go back to communication. You know, this I know they've hired a team. I'm super pumped for what they're going to do, but letting us know, not necessarily giving us timelines, but like if there are certain things that we're expecting at some point, just be like, hey, FYI, we're still working on the VV-verse. There's been some bumps with Cavernous or something, right? Like this has been a holdup. We're breaking through that, you know, and we're excited, you know, to update you more later on about like how we continue to build. That is so important, that communication, and that's the transparency. You don't have to tell us a lot. You don't have to give us those deadlines, but let the community know what's happening.
Yeah, Mitch had done that. Mitch was doing that once in a while. He would jump on. I remember one tweet that he made about the complexity of upgrading the search bar and everything that went into it. And I felt like that offers clarification. And for people who lack the confidence, they need that. They need that constant communication and just clarifying what's going on behind the scenes.
Yeah.
We've got a lot of good comments here. I just want to quickly go back to one. Crazy Dan said, patience is the key to success. Don't worry about the timeline for Veve at all. Tech takes time. They do need to get OMI ready for the next bull run and exchanges before the halving. I think exchanges after the halving might be better.
Yes.
Like just after, maybe a few months after.
So if you guys look at the price of Bitcoin, right? Like it doesn't just spike right after Bitcoin halves, right? It takes anywhere from 16 to 18 months before Bitcoin hits its all-time high, before then it starts dropping again. If you look at all the prior cycles, that's the timeline. So anywhere amongst there are tokens that hit narratives. There's a lot of different narratives that happen in those 18 months. So Veve just has to hit at least one of those during that time. Because what's happening as Bitcoin is rising, right? People are taking profits along the way, and then they're taking those, and a lot of them do then fall down, or then average dollar cost average down into some of these like micro caps, medium cap tokens and things. And so if Veve can just establish a lot of that during that time frame and earlier on, the better, right? Because then it has a chance to hit multiple narratives potentially as well. So
awesome. I've actually got to head off soon, guys. Maybe 5 more minutes if you guys want to wrap it up.
Did we do an hour and a half already? God damn.
Yeah, it's just gone like that. We've had a good one today. There's been some back and forth. I like all the pushback. I love having Patient Hodder on here, who's not quite a moon boy, so he gives us a little bit of pushback. And you know, Rain was sparring with OG Vault, so we had some good good drama
today. It's a feisty one, man.
Yeah, it's all right.
No, thanks for having us, Jordan, and for doing that weekly. I mean, I think it's good. It's like the talk shows that many people sit around the TV all the time, just better. And now people have a lot to do here, watching your Economiverse. So, and I appreciate going back and forth with you guys. I always say, like, after these live streams, I mean, it's 1:30 a.m. here in the morning, and sometimes my girlfriend asks, like, why, right? So why? It's in the morning, sometimes morning stream, and then to work and so on. But I always say, first of all, I get a bunch of new ideas to think about, right? Going back and forth with Dr. of Staff, discussing with Randy, with everyone here, with Rain. And the other thing is just like getting my own sometimes bearish, sometimes bullish bias back to level, right? So back in check, going back and forth with you guys. So appreciate that.
And I see here you've got more OMI. Is this right? You bought more OMI recently? You did 3 million last time I spoke to you.
Almost very close, but yeah, some like 4 million already.
Ooh,
So,
Patient
yeah, it's like,
bags, guys. It's time.
I didn't want to rush it, so here it goes slowly.
Get that bread. Before
what does that, Randy? Does that mean that I'm moving in my wheelchair to the OMI bag, or?
Slow. Oh, no, I was just stretching my shoulders hurt. That was just
okay.
Danny Bull, any parting words?
No, great chat, man. Enjoy having different perspectives on here as always. Check out this week. I'll have Hodler on my channel for the No Bull Show with Mr. Pags. So that'll be an interesting one because I think Pags' perspective has changed over time when it comes to OMI and whatnot. So I'm looking forward to that one.
Next week. Am I next week? Am I next week? I've forgotten.
You're on next week, yeah.
Okay.
Jordan will be on. I got the next 2 weeks booked for No Bull. I'll have Hodler and Pags on this week. Next week, I've got Jordan, Dan Lee, and Ron's Crypto Therapy. So building it out. Love talking to people and engaging in these conversations. Yeah.
Wicked. Yeah, I love the show, Danny. It's great to have another show going. The Noble Show, guys. Make sure you check it out and subscribe to Danny.
Do you accept bulls also?
What's that? Oh, yeah, bulls, bears. I know it's called No Bull, but we love bulls. I'm a bull.
It's about 50-50, right?
Yeah, 50-50.
Dr. Stuff, any parting words to the people?
No, I appreciate you guys coming in every week and listen to this chat. I really enjoy this chat because, again, we get to hear comments from the community, and sometimes there are things that are brought up that I hadn't considered. And as long as, we can try to keep it as civil as possible. I also have an announcement tomorrow. So Mr. David Yu will be coming on my channel, and we're going to be, Crypto Rain and myself are going to be interviewing David Yu. So I have a post that's going to be going out here in just a little bit. It's been a long time in the making, but I'm pumped. So if you guys are, have some additional questions, I got quite a few lined up, and some of them are flowing from that epic AMA that you guys had just last week on around the Acomiverse. So
just don't ask him about Vverse. Don't ask any Vverse questions.
Yeah. So I'm actually going
to
cut that off. I'm not going to ask you about OMI. We've already talked about why. And then also the Vverse is Dan's thing, and there is something that's coming out early morning tomorrow that's going to address a lot of the things related to the Vverse, and that's not David's thing anyways. You can tell from his responses and stuff. He's like I sit in these meetings, and anything that Dan gives me some info, but he's not the best person to ask there, so super stoked for that. You're gonna have a post out there. It's gonna be at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time tomorrow is when that's happening. So
your video? Was that the Vverse? Is that your video or the Vverse video?
No, the Vverse video is in the morning. I think it's going to be super early morning is what I've been told, but I'm not 5
a.m. Eastern time. Yeah.
Okay. That's what
I think that's just the podcast, right? And then the actual YouTube video goes
10 p.m. 10 p.m. is the YouTube, and on the YouTube video, there's going to be a sneak peek of the Vverse. I believe it's some stuff that people have been able to create. So now that's sentiment is so short-lived, right? There's been a lot of negative sentiment over the last week. All it takes is a positive representation of the Vverse and, to turn things around and get people feeling bullish again. So
awesome. We've got some good news happening this week. And Randy, any parting words for the guys?
So I didn't know this was public. Mr. MC1 had brought up that, hey, they just have not just an OMI team, blockchain team, but they happen to have an MCP team. And I was like, Randy, why are you so bullish on that? I was like, well, I have a lot of MCP points, and I think it'd be good to use them. But what happens when people run out of MCP points? Well, they're only really good for 6 months. And then after that, the ones you had 6 months ago are dead. You still have those. So as people go and they spend them, if there's a lot of reasons to spend them and people run out and they want more, you're going to need to use OMI for certain things, for bronze tickets, for whatever, because you don't have those MCP points left. So that's absolutely amazing. I don't know the size of the team, or I'm not sure if David said the size of the team, but it would likely be as big, if not bigger, as the OMI team. So I would say that's extremely bullish. And then you asked, I think, Chris Coffey yesterday if he would be around on the Acomiverse. I think he said yes. Do you have a date for him?
No, he said he he wants to come on my show and Danny's show, but he's very, very busy. So
yeah, he's got 2 kids or 1 kid.
Yeah, Sanjay said he's coming on. Kids too. The MC1's going to come on here sometime, so I'll book him in.
And
next week I have Mark. Mark is booked in as well.
Nice.
I love Mark. Yeah, Mark, we love you. Well, I'm very close to my 200th podcast. I'm trying it to be. It's going to be someone that no one would ever guess. That no one would
200
ever
hours.
2,000 hours.
No, if I do a big one, it'll be 100 hours at some point with a lot of planning. But that's going to be ways away. I'll tell you guys who it is, or if I can get the person on for the 200th. After this, if you want to stay on after.
Awesome. Well, I've got to head off, but thanks so much for coming, guys. We'll see you guys next week, and check out all the channels here linked below. All right, take care, guys.
Subscribe.